Hey YouTube, this is Ben Yessel. This is part two of what I'm talking about here. You know, um, yeah, all about basically, I'm trying to infer that we're all kind of in the same boat, unless you have some direct connection with God Himself. In earlier decades, you knew stuff that hardly anybody knew about. So, what I'm trying to say is, we were all fed somewhat misinformation. And people in earlier generations didn't have to deal with maybe the number of things that were didn't have to deal with the amount of misinformation, perhaps, because in earlier generations, people the quality of the farm food was better. There was more minerals in the soil. We hear that a lot now, and now there's so many things that you ought to know about. You really should. And so, I mean, because the amount of science we know is just so much better. We know a lot more than we used to about what's in our food. A lot more. But, I mean, just, and the scientific research is just going through the roof right now. It's like going like gangbusters. Um, but we were all in the same boat. And we still kind of are. But the thing about all this is that, as you know, and I've mentioned this before in some other videos, certain foods and certain nutrients even can be harder to get in your system on a budget, on a strict budget especially. Man, you always get supplements, but supplements they're never as good as real food. That's the thing I want to get to. I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about that. But I do believe again that we were fed lies or half truths, and I was often never. It wasn't always explained to me in black and white terms what to eat and how much of it. It was always somewhat vague. My parents were among the best people I knew of that just kind of knew how much to eat of some certain kinds of foods. They knew. They knew. We never skipped vegetables. We always had some kind of vegetable at dinner. Always. And for school lunches, I often had carrots and celery. Maybe not every single lunch, but if there were probably carrots in my lunch, there was a good chance. And if it wasn't carrots, it was celery. And all that celery is peanut butter, or something like that. It's something with some kind of protein. Because my sandwich might have, whatever kind of sandwich I had, it was nice to have the extra peanut butter. If I was really hungry. My parents knew stuff. They did. But it's like the amount of information we have now is just, it's insane. But as we have been learning about these things this last decade, increasingly, and then maybe the previous decade as well, and then the previous one as well before that, and to a certain extent, as we've been learning, here are some of the nutrients and foods that we all need to be consuming. I mentioned the vegetables and the nuts and the seeds and the beans and the a little bit of fruit, some fruit, depends on how you're doing, and all that stuff. I mentioned all that stuff, but you guys know where I'm going with this. Some of the two foods, one of which is middling priced if you get the pasture raised version. The other one is expensive, somewhat. I'm talking about salmon and eggs. You guys know this. Salmon has a lot of vitamin D. And vitamin D is the one nutrient that we need to be consuming more of across the board. And we need to be outside more, but many of us aren't. And we all know why. It's just the way modern life is. And I don't personally handle sun so well. I mean, I don't know about you guys that are, again, I mentioned this before, probably in another video. For all those of us Northern Europeans, Caucasians, man, some sun is enough. If we're out in the sun too long, it's sunburn time, unless you have your sunblock on or something. That's just That's just complexion, you know. But you know, other people can get sunburns too. It's just we do that really quickly. So we get plenty of vitamin D from the sun. We never have to. But you know, if you live in Canada or Russia or Norway or something, more toward Lapland, that's where you need to have that fish and stuff. The fish has vitamin D. If you're not getting it from the sun, hopefully you're getting it from fish. If not from fish, then hopefully from eggs. But high quality eggs, and I'm talking about pasture raised eggs and wild caught fish, or salmon, especially. Fish and eggs, man, have vitamin D. Eggs have all kinds of nutrients in them. Everything. Whatever you're not getting from plant foods, you can get the rest of what you need from eggs and fish. Yeah, yeah. I mean, poultry and stuff meat has like all these B vitamins and stuff. Yeah, but so do eggs. I mean, fish. I think it's great to have some poultry, along with your eggs and fish. And meat is always lamb blasted too, but that's exaggerated somewhat. But yeah, I don't know. It's a question of quantity, really. It really is true. We do need to be, if we're gonna have a steak for dinner, it should be a card-sized steak. And I know if we're starving, oh man, if you are starving, if I'm not starving, you know, having a little bit more than a card-sized deck is probably okay, especially if it's grass-fed. Oh yeah, but maybe have some more of other foods that you're having, too. But the problem with this increased knowledge that we have, and we're talking about K2 and where it's at, and getting in supplements and other stuff, even the cinema thing, chromate thing, taking along with, medication just to lower blood sugar. All this stuff, it's just, we keep learning about the sources of where all these vitamins and minerals are naturally found. So I'm talking about everything, not just Himalayan sea salt and grass-fed ghee butter. I'm talking about the more expensive kinds of fish, right? Like salmon, halibut, and fish is well, yeah. It's a lot of it's fish. It's not just red meat. It's fish. More and duck eggs have all the fats are really healthy in them, and we need animal fats really good for you. Just within reason. But yeah, I mean, like, avocados aren't exactly super cheap, and perishable food goes bad, so it's not as durable as other stuff. So it's not exactly super easy to be super cheap and really super healthy as well. And if we're kind of limited in what we're eating in terms of, if we're basically just about eating plant foods, some of those nutrients are going to be harder to absorb if you're not getting enough fats in your diet to, like, talk about the fat soluble stuff, right? You can try to have avocado and olive, nuts and seeds help you out, but again, nuts are also expensive. Fish and nuts, and we're seeing that more and more of these foods are so healthy for you, but fish and nuts are not none of those things are cheap. You can get canned tuna. I mean, it's hard to beat canned tuna and peanuts, but there's so many other types of healthier fish and nuts that are more expensive. So why, yeah, Andrew Zimmer mentioned this before. It is true. If it is possible to be really super nutritious and really healthy and not make a whole lot of money. But it's exhausting. To make sure you're getting all the nutrients you need to get, especially not from supplements. So, it's exhausting. And then there's all the shopping involved. My videos I've made about this subject, hopefully I've helped you guys on some level. So I very much like the idea of helping people out financially with food. If if people need that additional income or money for like kids to feed them, but also so that you're not, yeah, I mean, like, look at food deserts on YouTube. A food desert is a place where some geographical area where you don't have access to healthy food, food that all the plant foods, all the whole plant foods, plus like I mentioned, high quality fish and eggs, and sure, poultry and meat and grass fed meat and grass fed dairy, they count too as healthy foods. Just you just don't have as much of them, right? So yeah, but it's just the food deserts where you just have candy, soda, chips, donuts, and that kind of stuff. 7-Eleven food basically, and that's what is you can't find regular grocery food in food deserts. So in addition to helping people with being able to help feed their kids, stuff that will help them be healthy, you know, uh, helping people to be able to have access to actually like food that's going to help them be healthy, right? So there's the caloric needs, but there's also all the other nutrition needs that everybody needs. Not just people that are middle class and wealthy, but poor folks as well. People in inner cities, but not just inner cities. It's everybody. Doesn't matter what race you are. Doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter. Just that doesn't matter at all. Everybody needs access to the food that's going to help them be healthy. I really feel strongly about that. I don't know what to do about that yet though. But I know that if I were to donate money to any cause, or if I was in charge of something in that regard, that's what I would do. Because this is a real issue. And again, it's not just that there's the not being able to afford healthy food that's perishable. And I say not being able to afford it because sometimes you forget about those cucumbers in the back of your fridge until you just go, oh my gosh, yep, they're bad. Now, of course, the way to eat your vegetables, they're fresh, especially that people that recommend getting frozen stuff, and yes, that's a good idea. But the way to actually eat your fresh vegetables is, well, if you're not eating your fresh vegetables, you probably find them less appetizing because maybe your blood sugar is too high. Or, and of course, vegetables don't have very many calories, so we're not very motivated to eat them. But if you actually, it has to do with your taste buds and everything and all this, psychology. If you are at a point where you're just eating whole foods and very low sugar foods, for a while, you're gonna eat those vegetables. Lettuce would be very refreshing rather than, forget that. You'll buy vegetables. It's the weirdest thing, but it's true. And some vegetables, you like more than others. Sure, maybe, but I've mentioned this. I've hinted at this before in this video, and I'll mention this again. With regard to food addictions, it's impossible. It is impossible to be addicted to certain kinds of foods. And the foods that it's impossible to be addicted to are precisely those that we need to be eating more of. Because, for one, you can't be addicted to them, and two, they're really healthy for you. There you go. And all the foods that you can be addicted to, there's a better chance that something down the road might not be so good for you then. Because you'll probably have a lot more of it than you should if you're if you're not as disciplined about food. In some way, and it's like you can be so disciplined in so many areas, but it's that one or two things, right? For me, if I have some fudge, oh, just keep eating fudge. It's not just fudge, but believe me, I love chocolate. I love fudge. It's one of the things. It's one of my weaknesses. Like, man, I will tell somebody, what are your favorite foods? Oh man, it's gonna be it's up there. It's on my top 25 favorite foods. I love fudge. I love fudge more than the best Belgian dark chocolate. That's how much I love fudge. But can I eat fudge? And how often? Oh man, I'm sure I could have a little bit. I'm talking like not even one square at once. I'm talking like break off a little piece of the corner, and I'm good for like a week. And that's what maybe pushing it. I don't know. Maybe more than that. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's just, or you have a protein, you have a nuts, you know. Who has fudge with vegetables? So you have some nuts there in hand. See, they don't spike your blood sugar, but and dark chocolate's better. Yes, I know. I understand all that stuff. But I don't know. It's a question of quantity, man. Um, no, there's some other things I was going to mention before I wrap this up, I guess. I'm going to make this video a little shorter than the last one. Um, I truly honestly believe, I was talking about food deserts and stuff. I truly honestly believe that so many of us are indeed victims in this regard. We are victims. We are not at fault if we're unhealthy. It's not our fault. I mean, unless you're wantonly just picking out on the worst foods for you imaginable. And, unless you knowingly are consuming, for instance, a ton of alcohol or a ton of, smoking, and that's addiction, all this stuff, other stuff, there are things that I think can be one's fault. But it is everywhere. Sugar is everywhere. And all this other crap that's processed is everywhere. And it's cheaper. And it's more durable. So no, it's not anybody's fault. But this is the way things are in the United States. And we're kind of made fun of in Europe because they're so chubby. That's not Americans' fault. It's just what's available. That's what we've been kind of trained to eat. And I fought this on some level, and I still will keep fighting this. That whole, what are your options if you go to some funplex? Pizza, French fries, tater tots, hamburgers, cheesy stuff, like full fat cheese, and not real cheese, like just it's soda. You'll be lucky if you see anything that's produce on there, and it'll probably be fruit. It probably won't be. Salads. Salads are laughable. Who eats salad at Chuck E. Cheese? That's what I'm talking about. This is a real problem. It's a real problem because how many people are still in this condition? How many of us Americans are still thinking along the lines of macronutrients and not micronutrients? And how many of us really understand what's really going on? So I'm going to wrap this up. Leave me thoughts and comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.